So you've got a bike and you love going fast. Would you like to know how to get into racing? Perhaps you keep getting KOMs or QOMs when you go out riding, or you just drop all your friends and you're beginning to think, maybe you could be quite good at this. I did my first bike race aged 22. Now that's pretty old by the standard of professional cycling, where most people start as juniors, then work their way up through the ranks. But it is perfectly possible to start racing at any age. You might not make it as a pro, but then you might, and you'll never know unless you give it a try. There are actually quite a few examples of pros who started out in other sports. For example, Kristen Armstrong did triathlon until her late 20s, and she got 3 gold medals at the Olympics, which isn't bad. Your first consideration should be, what kind of racing do you want to try? If it's road racing, well, the very highest level of that is what you see on television with the World Tour, Tour de France, and the Olympic road race, for example. That's pretty daunting, but there are also national level races and local races, so give those a try first. There are criteriums, local road races, and local cyclocross events that you can try. There are also unlicensed sportives or grand fondos, which are mass start events, which can be local or far away in exotic locations. There are one-day and multi-day sportives, and they can be really fun as well as very competitive. If, on the other hand, bunch racing is not your thing, why not have a go at a time trial, where you start one by one against the clock and, frankly, it feels a lot less scary. If you're new to racing, why not just have a go at everything and see what you enjoy most? And remember that grand fondos or sportives are a really fun way to get that kick of competition and the thrill of racing without needing to get a license. If you want to try road racing, then the next step is to buy a license or a day license and enter a categorised event. Now, you'll start in the lowest category, but if you do well, you'll get points that will allow you to progress up the categories and eventually get noticed. Trust me, no one goes from a great power output or a KOM on one climb straight to a pro contract. It takes time and it takes experience. My best piece of advice would be to join a club, mostly because, well, people are lovely, but also you'll learn loads from club mates who have more experience of racing. You can go training together, you can share lifts for races, they'll cheer you up when you've had a bad day, and they'll come and whoop for you on the podium when you've won a race. In fact, the people you meet along the way are going to be far more important in the end than the races you win or lose. I've done a few races, and I have to say that the friends I made through cycling are far more important to me than any medals I ever won. Something to bear in mind when you take up racing is that you're going to have to learn some new skills probably. You might have an amazing FTP. You might be able to drop all your friends riding uphill, but it's not quite the same as winning a bike race. For a start, you're going to have to learn to attack rather than just ride steady. Secondly, you're going to have to learn tactics, which are actually quite complicated in a bike race. Thirdly, you're going to have to learn to ride with and for a team. Teamwork is absolutely essential in road races. What a lot of cyclists struggle with when they take up road racing is how to ride in the peloton. It was definitely something that I found really difficult. You'll have to learn some bike handling skills if you don't have them already, and you'll have to be prepared to crash, because I'm afraid that most bike races involve a crash every now and then. I think it's important to mention at this point some potential hiccups you might encounter on your path in racing. Now, I don't want to sound like a killjoy, but it's not always a smooth upwards path. For a start, like I said before, just because you have great power numbers, well, that doesn't mean you'll necessarily win every bike race. You may have to stick at it for a while to learn the tactics and the teamwork before you really start winning. Then there's always the law of diminishing returns. So while at the start you'll feel a really great improvement as you learn, as you get fitter, that improvement will tail off as you get better and better. Then of course there are the unfortunate possibilities of crashes and illness, which will obviously set you back as well. Hopefully it won't happen to you, but just be prepared if it does happen to enjoy your cycling and carry on and not be deterred. Once you get to a certain level, you'll need to be on a team. But how do you choose a team? And in fact, do you choose a team or do they choose you? Although of course it is really nice to have a top level bike and kit, that shouldn't be your main consideration. The only time I took it into account when choosing a team was if they didn't have a bike that would fit me. Another factor to consider is that if you go down the path of road racing and you get quite serious, you could potentially spend quite a lot of time away from home, travelling to races and racing. And not all of those races will be races that you want to do. There'll be races that you have to do to help your team or your teammates. And that's great because teamwork is such an important part of cycling. But just remember, when you're doing a flat race in Holland, you don't really like flat races, or a mountain race in the Pyrenees, when you like flat races, that it's all part of the job. If you're tempted by racing, whatever age you are, then all I can say is definitely give it a go. You'll have loads of fun, you'll meet some great people, and who knows where you'll end up. If you have any more questions about getting into racing, leave them in the comments down below and we'll do our best to answer them. Give us a thumbs up, and if you'd like to watch a video on how to race against yourself on Strava, click down here to see how to get Strava KOMs.